안녕하세요. Riding on the Korean wave. Welcome to Thursday's edition of The Culture Wave. I'm Kwon-Soa in Seoul. Explore with us Korea's culture from all aspects and stay up to date with K-entertainment, K-food, K-travel, K-everything. As it is Thursday, we have our co-host Bella Kim with me today in the studio. Hello, Bella.
Hi, Soa. And hello to everyone joining us today on the Culture Wave. I'm Bella, back again to co-host and fill you guys in with the latest in K-entertainment.
Bella, since we provide our viewers with K-pop news almost on a daily basis in K-enter, as you and Walter provide us with all of that, we sometimes make jokes about you being the Jisoo of the Culture Wave and me being
the Jenny of the Culture Wave.
Thank you for saying that and that I didn't have to say it. But before the show, we decided that Walter should be the Jin of the Culture Wave. And we would make a great mixed gender K-pop group.
Yes, for sure.
Now that's the hint for what's going to happen in the latter part of today's show. But first, it's time for Jisoo or Bella to shine. And we're going to start off with K-entertainment news. Now, Bella, the animation film K-pop Demon Hunters is continuing to make headlines. It's doing great on the viewers' charts, but also the listeners' charts.
For sure. A total of 6 songs from the K-pop Demon Hunters soundtrack are in the Billboard main single chart Hot 100. According to the Billboard chart this week, Golden by Huntrix, a fictional girl group in the movie, soared to number 23, climbing 58 spots from its debut at number 81 last week. And also, Your Idol by Saja Boys, also a fictional boy group from the album, jumped 46 places to number 31 in its second week on the chart. Other soundtrack entries include How It's Done, Soda Pop, What It Sounds Like, Free, and Takedown. The soundtrack album also climbed 5 steps up from last week, reaching number 3 on the main album chart, Billboard 200.
Okay, now let's move on to a real K-pop group, ATEEZ.
Well, ATEEZ, all the members of this ATEEZ have renewed their contract with their agency, KQ Entertainment. KQ Entertainment announced on Thursday that they have successfully renewed contract with all 8 members of ATEEZ for another 7 years after 7 years of working together. ATEEZ debuted back in October 2018 and have been loved globally as they topped the Billboard 200 charts in 2023 and also performed at Coachella Valley Music and Arts Festival as a very first K-pop boy group. Meanwhile, ATEEZ will release their 12th mini-album, Golden Hour Part 3 In Your Fantasy Edition on Friday and will continue with their tour, ATEEZ 2025 World Tour In Your Fantasy in North America and Japan.
Well, exciting news for ATEEZ fans or the ATEEZ, but there's going to be some sad news for Carrots or 17 fans. What is it?
That is correct. 17 members, Hoshi and Uji, will enlist and start serving their mandatory military service in September. According to their agency, Platis Entertainment, Uji will enlist on September 15th and Hoshi the next day, September 16th, both as active duty soldiers in the army. They will be the 3rd and 4th members of the group to enlist after Jonghan and Wonwoo. The agency asked fans to refrain from visiting the entrance ceremony site. Hoshi and Uji have been active as representatives of 96 Line, as both were born on 1996, after showcasing their first unit song, Shoot Me, in 2017. And recently, they dominated music charts with their latest single, Beam, released back in March. The two will meet with their fans as they kick off their first fan concert tour, Warning, in Seoul this weekend.
Well, the fans will still have a little bit of more time to spend with them. And also, I believe they're going to have something in store even during military service.
Yes.
That's been the trend. That's what male idol group members have been doing. So thank you very much, Bella, for those K-Enter updates, and stick around.
Will do.
Let's now go over to our AI anchor, Adi, for more on the culture front. Adi?
Hello and welcome to your AI guide to the latest cultural updates from Korea. Here's our top story. Jeju Island will mark the inclusion of the April 3rd incident records in UNESCO's Memory of the World with a ceremony next Friday. Staged at the Jeju April 3rd Peace Park, the event will feature a certificate presentation, a commemorative service, and a peace concert. A special exhibition displaying key archives related to the incident will also be open to the public. Records of the Jeju April 3rd incident were officially inscribed on the UNESCO list in April this year. Jeju Governor Oh Young-hoon expressed hope that the event will raise awareness of the incident's historical significance both domestically and internationally. Busan's premier summer event, the Taejongdae Hydrangea Flower Culture Festival, is in full swing. Now in its 15th year, the festival returned after a 6-year hiatus caused by the COVID-19 pandemic and drought, drawing renewed interest from residents and tourists alike. More than 4,000 hydrangea bushes across 30 varieties are in full bloom around Taejongsa Temple, creating a breathtaking scene. The festival also features diverse cultural performances, a flea market, free horseback riding, and various other programs. As an intense heat wave grips Korea, the Twin Tunnel in Milyang City, Gyeongsangnam-do Province, is gaining attention as nature's air conditioner, drawing a steady flow of tourists. Once abandoned for 13 years, the tunnel reopened as a tourist attraction in 2017. Its entire 1-kilometer stretch is illuminated with vibrant LED lights, transforming the space into a surreal and enchanting tunnel of light. The tunnel maintains a consistent temperature of 15 to 19 degrees Celsius year-round, providing cool relief in summer and warmth in winter. Milyang City says over 3,000 visitors come to the tunnel on weekends, seeking to experience its natural coolness. That's all from me. Stay tuned to the Culture Wave.
Summer season calls for travel to the sea and islands, and some of the closest ones, that is, can be found in Incheon, a city also well known to foreign tourists as they arrive at the airport there. Now, there is a way to travel to and from the city's offshore islands for only 1,500 Korean won, around $1.10 by using the Incheon IC Pass. Cha Yun-kyung has more.
Incheon Coastal Passenger Terminal is crowded with lots of people visiting the islands of Incheon from early in the morning as the number of tourists has increased significantly.
Since the ship fare has become quite reasonable for Incheon residents, I have suggested tours of Incheon's islands to my friends and family.
The Incheon IC Pass is the city's first initiative this year, utilizing online booking and payments that allows Incheon residents to travel to the 25 islands in the Western Sea for just 1,500 Korean won, equivalent to the price of the standard bus fare. Non-residents can also receive a discount of up to 70% of the normal ferry fares that vary depending on the islands visited, the type of ferry, and age, among others. Although the number of passengers using Incheon coastal ferries has decreased due to higher cancellation rates than last year, the number of IC Pass users has increased 10.3%, or around 16,000 people. Among IC Pass users, the number of Incheon residents increased to 150,000, up 3.3%, while the number of non-residents reached 19,000, an increase of 27.6%. As a result, Incheon Metropolitan City expects economic stimulation for Incheon's islands through the IC Pass. Incheon will also look to find ways to prevent inconvenience to the island's residents and revise policies as the number of users increases. Cha Yun-kyung, Arirang News.
All Day Project, Card, Jesby. These groups have something in common. They not only have released new songs or debuted this summer season, but all of them are mixed gender groups, which is not something we see often in the K-pop world, as in the past decade or so, it's been deemed difficult to succeed in this format. Nevertheless, entertainment companies and producers have not given up, and there might be a possibility that co-ed groups could become a trend again. For more on this, we connect to our K-pop expert, Jeff Benjamin. Hello, Jeff.
Hi, Jeff.
Hello, everyone.
Thanks for joining us today. Now, Jeff, let's start with the rookie K-pop group that sings
We ain't even famous,
but have become famous in the blink of an eye. It's All Day Project, made up of 3 female members and 2 male members. Now, the group debuted less than 3 weeks ago and have been sweeping the charts. So how have they been doing? What's behind their successful debut?
Okay, first of all, did you guys practice that beforehand?
A little bit.
A little bit.
Okay. That was good. That was good.
Thank you.
Yeah. Like you said, All Day Project, they've already have this great catchphrase, right? And they've been able to do that, I think, through a couple factors here. One, we can't ignore that the fact that they come from the Black label, which is, of course, the somewhat newly created label by Teddy, the main producer for iconic groups like 21 and Blackpink. And he's just such a reliable hit maker, right? He knows how to make sounds that kind of have these universal appeals. I think everyone's always craving something new from Teddy. He always knows how to make a hit. So they had a really great backing from the beginning. But also, I think the combination of people here is something really remarkable. There's 5 members, right? And if we quickly look through them, there is Annie, who is the granddaughter of the chairwoman of Shin Sege Samsung Group. She was rumored to be part of Meow, but she's actually part of this group. There's Tarzan. He was known as a model and rapper. He was in music videos for New Jeans and Idol. Bailey Sok is a choreographer, famous dancer. She was on TV shows like America's Got Talent, World of Dance. We also got Woo Chan, the other man. He was on a popular TV competition, Show Me the Money. He was rumored to be part of Big Hit Entertainment's new boy band. And Youngseo was actually the most unexpected addition. She was a member of Islet, actually, and competed on the show that created them, but she left before their debut and nobody knew why. But kind of most importantly, it was always about the fact that these are 5 people that everyone kind of knew about in general and knew something about them, so they're not completely fresh faces.
I can definitely see that each members are very experienced. Now, before All Day Project, Card were the representative mixed gender group in the K-pop scene, and just a week ago they actually released their 8th mini album, and also Jesby, a mixed gender music group created through the entertainment content on YouTube, also dropped a digital single late last month. So now, are mixed gender groups kind of back in fashion? And if yes, why do you think so?
I think now is the time to see. I guess it's tough to say if, there's 2 new groups, in Jesby and All Day Project, if that's a trend, but I'd say it's a really big win for co-ed groups right now, especially with All Day Projects, because it's been difficult in general for them to work, not even just in Korea, but around the world. But, again, if you look at Jesby, I think they came together, right, by making content on YouTube together. They kind of have this established fan base and interest with them. They have some famous names behind them. And it's kind of, even you go back to Card too, they, many of the members had a lot of experience in the industry too. Somin was a member of girl groups like April and Purity. She was almost a new member of Kara. BM and JSEF, they were in music videos for their label mates like Kara and Rainbow, Guhara. They were kind of like, once again, these faces that we were kind of seeing and knowing, and they were able to come together in this new way. So I'd say right now, it's kind of like, this is the big test, right? And I think, based on Card, based on Jesby, based on All Day Project, it's kind of all hitting a really good point right now.
So it might also be just a little coincidence that they all are releasing their songs at this season, or it might not be a coincidence. Maybe they think really this is the timing. Maybe it might be a strategy. But what we can say is that, Jeff, in the 1990s, we had much more of these co-ed groups. I can name a few on the top of my head. We have Uptown, Cool, Coyote, Rula, Sharp. So it was much more common. So why did this trend kind of vanish in the past years?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think it's not even limited once again to Korea or K-pop. I think it's just always been a bit more difficult to appeal a mixed gendered group in general. More or less girl groups and boy groups, they appeal to boys and girls in different ways, right? With girl groups tend to be, models, role models to women, or, appealing to the male gaze, whatever it might be. But then boy groups are also marketed as sort of, objects of affection or being very cool. And ultimately those commercial interests really kind of won in the end, is that, it was commercially made more sense to actually go with the single gender groups. But I think on top of that, the attempts that did come from these co-ed groups, maybe not so much in the 90s, but definitely, at least when I saw K-pop taking off in a more international way, the groups were just kind of subjected to a lot of scandals, a lot of rumors, especially as the internet blew up, lots more people talking about them. Photos, way more photos being taken, people wondering if the members are dating. You even go back to groups like Troublemaker and Triple H, which Hana from Cube Entertainment was part of. They had a lot of people talking about them, which is good in one sense, but also, caused a lot of kind of difficulties with the groups. So, on one hand, it's great to look back on these groups and kind of see, it's almost nostalgic in that way, but, ultimately kind of the sad, boring answer is that commercial interests ultimately won out.
Right, so we did see a decrease in these co-ed groups in Korea. But what about in other countries? In Korea, we see this less or fewer of mixed gender groups. But how is other countries doing in regards to this?
Yeah, it's kind of similar, and you can even look at it a bit like region by region. Where I am in the US, I don't even really remember many like mixed pop groups in that way. I remember there was one TV show that made a mixed group, and I think they put out an album and disbanded. But, if you look at Europe, they've had some success with mixed gender groups. There's been some famous names like S Club 7, Ace of Base, A-Teens, but it hasn't really continued on much past then. Once again, that was sort of the 90s, 2000s groups that really were able to break out. Latin America actually has a really interesting kind of take on the sort of mixed gendered groups, is that many times actors or entertainers from, established TV shows or soap operas will actually come together in mixed groups. Mexico is actually really big into this. There was this popular group, I remember them, RBD. They had a lot of success from 2004 to 2009. They disbanded, but actually came back not too many, I believe in 2021, had a huge tour. It sold millions. They had over 1 million people attend this tour, made hundreds of millions. It was really kind of remarkable. And I think once again, that's hitting on this trend, right? And this idea that there were some famous faces or ways people knew them other than music. They came together in this co-ed group, and people really seem to accept that and get excited about them.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think actually KARD has been very popular in Latin America. So maybe, right. So maybe that's also a reason why, because we can see more of those co-ed experiences over there. But speaking of KARD, the members of KARD actually have mentioned numerous advantages of having female members and male members, and the biggest one being the variety. Now, they say no matter how you group the members together, you can create a variety of combinations within the group. So, Jeff, what do you think are the factors that make mixed gender groups attractive?
I love that. I think there really is a huge advantage just the way you can create so many varieties. There are songs where, the men can take the lead, the women can take the lead. It can be more balanced. You can share the male perspective, the female perspective, a single perspective, a group perspective. There's so many ways you can play with that. And I think it's almost a bit of a shame that we haven't had so many, different ways to sort of think about our pop music or K-pop music in that way. And musically, you can make so many jumps, right? You can go from, a soft melody, pop melody to rougher raps. And it's just kind of fun to be able to see, just the different ways you can do it. And I think it's very refreshing to see, the group dynamics actually with guys and girls in it. Sometimes, just as a journalist, right, you can kind of see, the way a boy group might operate together, the way a girl group might operate. But I love seeing a group like KARD and how they operate, and just seeing, the big brother mentality you see from JSF and BM, but then the way that, the younger members are kind of like almost like the little sisters. It's very charming and very cute.
Now, Jeff, you earlier did mention a few of what could be disadvantages of mixed gender groups, but let's talk a little bit more about them, because there's probably a reason for why we're not seeing them in the past decade or so.
Yeah, I've actually discussed this with people who have worked with groups like KARD, and I actually think BM himself has spoken about this as, the reason he really got into producing music and the group started making more of their own choreographies is because the industry isn't totally set up to kind of connect with, co-ed productions in that way. Many times, it's considered, oh, this is, a group, this is a song for male singers, or this is a song for female singers. Even just the physicality of it, the groups have different ranges between men and women. So, I know songwriters and producers, they tend to not always have that perspective in mind. And I think it's always very tough to be able to find, a demo or a different kind of song that might work for both men and females. So I think that's why you also ultimately lots of times see, groups, mixed co-ed groups rather, that kind of starts leaning one way or the other. It's very tough to kind of make that balance. So there's been groups like 18s, who I mentioned before, where it was mostly the women taking the lead on most of the songs, and the guys were kind of in the background. But I also think that's why KARD has been quite successful and been able to last the way they have, is because they focus a lot on trendy music, and it's not necessarily about, okay, we have to have this identity and we have to always make it sound like this, but rather they can chase trends and they can kind of focus their music in that way, rather than it needing to be like, oh, this is our male sound, this is our female sound. They tend to focus on trends, which can be a disadvantage for a larger musical identity, but it has been working so far for KARD so far.
Jeff, that's a very interesting perspective, because other things seem very trivial listening to your answer, because what I was thinking of, you have to have different changing rooms whenever you tour around, or there could be some issues with living together in the same house, which has been also mentioned though. But again, a very interesting perspective regarding that musical aspect.
Definitely. And before we let you go, Jeff, finally, with All Day Project that we've been talking about today, the newly debuted mixed gender group in Spotlight, do you think this rookie group could kind of spark this co-ed or spark this trend in K-pop industry?
I think it could, and I think a lot of people are going to be watching them very closely. Even the name, right? All Day Project is kind of interesting, right? Because lots of times in K-pop, it's a word that, you can be a project group, or you can be like a temporary project. So, maybe the members will end up doing their own things, or doing things in different units or combinations. I think that could be kind of interesting. And also, I think, All Day Project is really, I think, proving that, if you have a big name in your company and they don't necessarily fit with a current musical vision, or one boy group or girl group has a concept that they don't really vibe with, it's not like all hope is lost. I think Wuchan was with Big Hit, right? And that's a huge label. And when the band that he was working with didn't end up debuting, he went to the Black label. And I think the Black label has been really smart not to lose him, not to lose someone like Annie, who of course has, so much interest and influence behind her. So I think this could actually be a really positive thing for the industry in general, and definitely in terms of getting more co-ed groups and getting that diversity out there, but also maybe allowing more just different kinds of artists not to lose their chance and have more opportunities in the industry, rather than it feeling like all hope is lost, if you don't make the debut lineup at some point.
Well, let's keep an eye on those mixed gender groups. Jeff, thank you very much for your insights today, and have a great rest of the week.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah.
And thank you, Bella, as always. See you back here tomorrow.
Yes, I'll see you back tomorrow.
Thank you for spending the past half an hour with us on the Culture Wave, and please join us again tomorrow on Friday at 2 p.m. Korea time, and maybe one day here in Korea.